Oil versus green energy. Should a developing country that has both these resources have to choose either one of them? Hello, this is Business 7. Welcome to the show where we're going to examine this dilemma between the two energy resources.
Connection. It's in the human touch, the feeling of belonging. It inspires us and empowers us, creates clarity from complexity. It starts new conversations, unlocks the power of advice, and makes an impact on your life. At Alex Forbes, we pioneer insight to provide you with advice that connects your decisions of today to your impact tomorrow.
In May this year, Namibia sent a high-power delegation to the World Economic Forum in Davos to drive its green energy agenda. However, the whole issue of oil also came to the front. This is what President Hage Geingob had to say about it.
Some people say, when you are talking about your transition to the hydrogen, how do you talk about oil still? It's no contradiction. The oil is going to be short-lived. Hydrogen is a long way to go.
Also at Davos in May, Mines and Energy Minister Tom Alvendu tried to calm down concerns about Namibia's agenda when it comes to oil and green energy.
Question, as I mentioned, where people say, are we perhaps not reneging on our commitment to manage the climate if we are also at the same time going to embrace fossil fuel? The straight answer to this is really no, we are not. When we talk about the energy transition, to transition from fossil fuel to renewable energy that we are committed to do, we believe that it's not about closing down whatever it is you are doing. It's probably doing what you're doing, knowing very well that at the end we all need to phase out this process. And we also know that when it comes to energy, for example, on the African continent, and Namibia is no exception, when it comes to energy, when you ask people, when you talk to people about energy transitions, in fact, people ask and say, but we don't have energy at all. What are we actually transitioning from? For a developed country, when they talk about transition, obviously they say, look, we have industrialized using fossil fuel, but we cannot continue to do that anymore. But if you have not industrialized, not only not industrialized, but you simply have no access to energy, we are now saying, if we are going to have an energy transition that is just, it can only mean that at least those who have got access to fossil fuel, they should be allowed to utilize those resources, which will also then put them in a better position to embrace the renewable pathway. And therefore, when we say we embrace this, it cannot in any way suggest that we are reneging on our commitment to climate management, but simply it will put us in a better position to even accelerate our pathways to more renewable energy.
While Namibia and its cities are seen as one of the cleanest countries in Africa, plastic pollution is a big problem. Therefore, it's up to each of us to do what we can to reduce the use of plastic, especially single-use plastic bags. At Liberty Life Namibia, we've taken the decision to turn all our old branding items into reusable shopping bags. It's a way in which we can drive sustainability and look after our most important stakeholder, our environment. If you also believe in sustainability and would like more information, please get in touch. Liberty Life Namibia. In it with you.
We heard what government has to say about the energy agenda. We also spoke to an independent economist, that is Robert McGregor from Ceres Capital, on his thoughts of oil versus green energy. Robert, since Namibia has pitched its aspirations for green hydrogen last year, and very shortly after that, earlier this year, the announcement of 2 major oil discoveries, there are Namibians that say government is now chasing 2 agendas, and they're not very happy about the fossil fuel situation. What is your take on this?
Well, I think it's firstly important to clarify that, we do have positive results from oil so far. Obviously, nothing more is known yet. We don't know sort of commercial viability, size, anything of that sort, but it is very promising. And I do see that there are a lot of people that seem to think that these are competing interests, but I don't feel the same. I think we can see these as 2 sides of the same coin, especially one a much longer term potential and development, the other one a much shorter term, although not very short term, opportunity to help us get to the other. So, if we do have, massive hydrocarbons, whether oil or gas off our coast, that are commercially viable, the revenues and the investment that those can bring, and the environment that those could create in Namibia could actually be an important and very useful stepping stone to developing Namibia as a large and important renewable destination. So I know many seem to think that these are conflicting opportunities, but I think actually rather one could be used or leveraged to help grow and develop the other much longer term.
It's also, one has to take into consideration the whole transition towards green energy, and the fact that that's not something that's going to happen overnight.
Yes, so I mean, it's as the name suggests, it's a transition. It's not a once-off. We stop with fossil fuels today, and they're completely abandoned, and we move on from there. Rather, as we've seen, especially now over the last few months, the world is still heavily reliant on fossil fuels. Yes, I understand that there may be a need to move beyond these, but it's not something that we can do too quickly, especially in the developing world. There are a lot of great renewable technologies, but these also tend to be a lot more expensive or less reliable than fossil fuel alternatives. And for developing countries, that poses a much larger challenge, particularly given the large amount of poor people living in developing countries. So I think what's come to the fore over the last few months, especially given the large increases in fuel prices across the globe, driving higher inflation across much of the globe, is that there is still a very large reliance on these fossil fuels. They will likely be still for another 10, 20 years. But there's also this increasing push to be less reliant on them. And that gives Namibia a good window of opportunity that if we do have good hydrocarbon potential, if we do have a good hydrocarbon discovery, that we could use that for effectively what might be the last years of major fossil fuel use, enjoy those revenues to help Namibia develop, improve. The benefits that something like that could possess, given that we know how fossil fuels work. It's a tried and tested industry. We know what sort of revenues we can expect, what sort of development we can expect, and that could have huge benefits for the country, both from a fiscal perspective. The government could see large revenues that obviously can then feed through into things like improved infrastructure in terms of healthcare, education, and others. You could look at improved social grants or other measures, but also improved employment in general. And from that, you could also then, I mean, with potential revenues from something like fossil fuels, you could even set aside some of those revenues to say, all right, well, we're using this to subsidize our transition or to subsidize research and development into renewables in Namibia. How Namibia could, leverage that and not be reliant on fossil fuels for the long term, but rather use the fossil fuels that we may have in the short or near term or medium term rather, and use the revenues from those to position ourselves for a greener future over the long term.
You know, a few weeks ago, I would never do this on a Saturday morning. Back then, I was standing in line all day. Now it's just like that.
You are using the FNB banking app like I told you.
Girl, it saved my weekend. Now I can do all my banking on this.
Payments, transfers, checking statements.
Even opening accounts.
Just like that.
Oh, did I tell you what my husband did?
Even me, I want to save time with the, what's the name of the app?
FNB app.
Don't be left behind. Make the switch to the FNB app, online banking or cell phone banking, and change the way you bank to change your life. FNB, how can we help you?
Important to remember is, of course, that both Namibia's oil and green energy aspirations are in a very early stage, and that the commercial viability of these projects still have to be established. We spoke to economist of Ceres Capital, Robert McGregor, about the timeline of both these projects.
Obviously, Namibia very, very excited about the announcement of a possible oil production future, but that too isn't going to happen overnight. In terms of timelines, should we be able to pursue oil production, what timeline are we looking at? And in terms of revenue, etc., what will be the benefits in the run-up to production?
So there are a lot of variables at play. It obviously depends on the complexity and size of the sites that are being explored at the moment. So those will determine firstly if it is commercial, and if it is commercial, how easy it is to extract, what level of technical difficulties may be faced, and that could have a large impact on the timelines. But in addition to that, I think what's been positive to see is that there's been a big push by government so far to be very supportive of this. And if that talk also translates into action, then we should see a relatively shorter time frame. The challenge is that, I mean, this is a new area, a new space for Namibia. And so, I see there's talks of potentially maybe in the next 4 to 5 years. I think that's very optimistic. More realistic, at least 6 to 8 years. I think that's somewhat more reasonable. I mean, there are countries that have gone much shorter, but there are countries that have done much, much longer. So I would like to think the next 6 to 8 years would be far more reasonable. Should we have a confirmed commercial discovery. And the benefits with something like this is, the moment you do know that it is, for instance, commercial, you see benefits early on. Firstly, you will see a lot of investment coming in. Obviously, whoever is looking to extract that oil will drive massive investment in the country, not just in terms of direct finance coming in, but also obviously they'll need Namibian skills, they'll need real estate. Those people that they bring in will need housing and similar. They will be drawing salaries in Namibia and spending that money here. And so that's in the build-up from the technical teams to construction or anything related, your normal admin staff as well. And in addition to that, the potential wealth that something like oil could drive sees other people positioning for that. So you will have other industries saying, all right, well, there might be a potential now to look elsewhere. We might need more lodges, we might need more houses, we might need more office space or something like that, and you see other industries generating that. And then you also have a lot of offshore money deciding, all right, well, Namibia is actually looking like it's poised for growth. We want to buy in. We want to set up something in Namibia. And so it's not to say that it might be something very specific, but you do have a lot of money that will say, all right, well, Namibia looks like a good opportunity. Let's see what we can do there. And that's all in the build-up before production. In terms of fiscal revenue, that's not the big driver. You will see added benefit. Obviously, a growing economy drives domestic tax revenues, which is great in terms of VAT, personal income tax, company tax, and similar. But the real big boon for government would be if we do start producing, given the royalties, firstly, that government would receive, as well as the corporate taxes, potential additional corporate taxes, through the sliding scale, depending on profitability. That's more towards the later years and depending on the oil price. But those could drive huge revenues for government, depending obviously on the size and scale of production, should there be any.
You say about up to 8 years before we'd be able to produce oil, should it be commercially viable. In terms of green hydrogen, what is the timeline there?
Well, what we do see is that there are some smaller pilot plants that are looking to start production, say, in the next 2 years. And so, we've got like the Cleanergy and the HDF projects that are looking to start up over the next couple of years. I think the timeline might be a bit longer than we expect, given that it's still a very nascent industry. So there's still a lot of research that needs to be done. You've got your environmental impact assessments, your scoping reports, and similar. Then you need to start on your construction feasibility, then construction, and then take it from there. I think the large one that everyone obviously is very well aware of is the Hyphen one, and there we think the project might have massive potential, but I think the timeline might be isn't as clear as I think many seem to believe it would be. There we're looking at something, quite a few years away. So nothing in my view, nothing substantial, nothing massive, or of the scale that we see reported quite often in the next 5, maybe closer to 10 years, given, the area that it is looking to be done in is still very environmentally sensitive. So there needs to be monitoring in that area for a while. Then you need to do your various impact assessments. They're looking to do scoping reports. From there, again, feasibility, construction pilot phase, decide from there whether to expand, if it's going to work or not. And so there, we're looking beyond the 5 to 10 year period.
Every day, you make choices that make you legendary. Journey together with us on the path to securing your legacy as a member of the League of Legends. With the Select Platinum Bundle Fee Premium Bank offering, you will access tools that will enable you to thrive. If you earn 850,000 Namibian dollars per annum or more, you can apply for this offering today via bankvinted.com.na for only 447 Namibian dollars per month. Bank Vinted, a member of Capricorn Group.
Namibia is already one of the major uranium producers in the world. Should our oil and green hydrogen dreams come true, will this strategically place Namibia in an energy powerhouse position in the future? We're going to play out with Robert McGregor, the economist of Ceres Capital's view on this. And then, until next week, it is goodbye.
All of these coming together and should all take off quite well. I mean, that does place Namibia effectively at the heart of the world's energy commodities. So I mean, in terms of green hydrogen, I don't think we'll be a major producer, or in terms of hydrogen, not necessarily green hydrogen, but in terms of hydrogen, we won't be, producing enough to have a large impact on global demand. But the combination of, say, hydrocarbons, renewable energies, not necessarily just green hydrogen, but renewable energies in general, and then also nuclear fuels. I mean, these are all key energy sources. And I think what we've seen, especially over the last few years, is is that the shift away from nuclear has started reversing. I think there's been a realization that nuclear is actually a key role, or plays a key role in the move to net zero carbon emissions. And Namibia, while not necessarily having the highest grade deposits, has amongst the largest uranium deposits in the world. And that really does provide us with a lot of long-term potential as well. So that really may see Namibia growing in not just regional but global importance and esteem, should we handle these opportunities correctly in terms of the global scale.
In Business 7, you get news on current economic, financial, and business matters in Namibia. The weekly show features interviews with experts and in-depth analysis of burning issues in a way that caters for ordinary Namibians and business connoisseurs alike. We crunch the numbers that matter, decipher statistics that shape Namibian lives, discuss smart money, and explore the impact of global developments locally. Money makes the world go round, so catch us on NTV, OneUp2.com, and the Facebook platforms of Namibian Sun, Republikane, Algemeine Zeitung, and Namibia Media Holdings. For news-related or advertising queries, please contact B7 at synergy.com.na.
Connection. It's in the human touch, the feeling of belonging. It inspires us and empowers us, creates clarity from complexity. It starts new conversations, unlocks the power of advice, and makes an impact on your life. At Alex Forbes, we pioneer insight to provide you with advice that connects your decisions of today to your impact tomorrow.
While Namibia and its cities are seen as one of the cleanest countries in Africa, plastic pollution is a big problem. Therefore, it's up to each of us to do what we can to reduce the use of plastic, especially single-use plastic bags. At Liberty Life Namibia, we've taken the decision to turn all our old branding items into reusable shopping bags. It's a way in which we can drive sustainability and look after our most important stakeholder, our environment. If you also believe in sustainability and would like more information, please get in touch. Liberty Life Namibia. In it with you.
Every day, you make choices that make you legendary. Journey together with us on the path to securing your legacy as a member of the League of Legends. With the Select Platinum Bundle Fee Premium Bank offering, you will access tools that will enable you to thrive. If you earn 850,000 Namibian dollars per annum or more, you can apply for this offering today via bankvintage.com.na for only 447 Namibian dollars per month. Bank Vintage, a member of Capricorn Group.
You know, a few weeks ago, I would never do this on a Saturday morning. Back then, I was standing in line all day. Now it's just like that.
You are using the FNB banking app like I told you.
Girl, it saved my weekend. Now I can do all my banking on this.
Payments, transfers, checking statements.
Even opening accounts.
Just like that.
Oh, did I tell you what my husband did?
Even me. Even me, I want to save time with the, what's the name of the app?
FNB app.
Don't be left behind. Make the switch to the FNB app, online banking or cell phone banking, and change the way you bank to change your life. FNB, how can we help you?